Hey guys, what's up? Today is finally time for me to review Suikoden 3, what I think of as probably the most underrated Suikoden game in the entire series. It's bad.
I also think it's really bad.
It's not that great. Released only in Japan and North America in the year 2002, it was one of the first important JRPGs from a big series on the PlayStation 2. The Suikoden series was extremely popular in Japan, but not very well known elsewhere. Konami could have done so much better marketing and advertising for this, but instead their efforts were mediocre at best, and the game wasn't even released in Europe, at least not until its digital port to the PlayStation 3 many years later. Surprisingly, the game will go on to sell over 1 million copies worldwide, 980,000 of those for the PlayStation 2 version alone. So, yeah, that's a big deal. Let's find out if this game was really that good, worthy of those numbers. Suikoden 3 was a departure from the storytelling style we saw in the previous two games. This one didn't have a silent protagonist, but instead 4 main characters, each with a distinct personality, personal development, and dialogue. However, upon starting the game, you can choose between only 3 of them, but it's not like you'll play through the entire adventure with just one. Instead, you will complete one chapter with one protagonist, and then you'll be forced to choose again between the other 2. These will repeat again and again on every chapter after unlocking the 4th main character. In other words, there isn't an established protagonist on Suikoden 3, but rather the first 3, which are Hugo, Chris, and Gidoe. Curiously though, you'll choose the name of the legendary Flame Champion at the beginning despite him not being a playable character at all. Well, that's weird. But anyway, the plot takes place 16 years after the events of Suikoden 2 and the Suikogaiden visual novels. It focuses on the Grasslands, a giant land where many different tribes live separately, like the nation of Zexen, for example. I know, what a name, Zexen. So, Zexen's relationship with the other tribes is extremely tense, and after some tragic events set up by the antagonists of this game, war erupts between them and the other tribes. So you'll play through the point of view of Chris Lightfellow, the commander of the Zexen Knights, but also through Hugo's point of view, the son of the Karajan leader Lucia, whom we did see in Suikoden 2 a few times. Gido is a mercenary who gets caught up in the war, but his story is a bit more unique. Finally, there's Thomas, who will be the owner of the castle where you'll eventually settle to start recruiting all 108 Stars of Destiny. So, do you need to play Suikoden 1 or especially 2 before this one? Well, it helps into understanding several things about some characters and the world, but I wouldn't say it's indispensable. Nevertheless, those first 2 games are strongly recommended anyway, so if you can play them first, then do it. The story was written by Yoshitaka Murayama, the creator of the series, but shortly after the game's release, he and other developers left Konami, so his name was taken out of the credits because of some dumb Konami policy about not including names from ex-employees of the company in the credits, even though Murayama was basically the captain of the entire game. Goddamn Konami! Murayama left because his 10-year contract with the company had ended, and no other explanations were offered by anyone as to why he really left. You'll also be surprised to know that the music wasn't done by Miki Higashino or any of the previous composers. Now it was done by Castlevania series composer Michiru Yamane, alongside Takashi Yoshida and Masahiko Kimura. The soundtrack is excellent here, with several themes that are memorable, nostalgic, exciting, and relaxing. I really like it, but I have to admit, it just isn't as good as the music in the first 2 games. The graphics were done by most of the same team as before, but Junko Kawano didn't do the art this time. Instead, Fumi Ishikawa took over the 2D art style and characters. However, the in-game graphics, the 3D models and backgrounds were done by a different team, and honestly, for a game of 2002, they looked great, but nowadays have aged a bit poorly, mostly in terms of controls. Exploring around feels a bit dated, especially with the random encounters all around. It isn't high. thankfully, but it can feel quite dispersed, as in high in some areas and low in others. I'm pointing this out because even though you don't have a regular overworld, instead being done by a map menu like this one, moving your character from a point A to point B, you do explore several connecting areas and dungeons, and the exploration is only rewarding when you find a cool item or recruit one character, so in terms of the former, it's a bit bare bones and uninspiring, but in terms of the latter, it's enjoyable. Of course it is, that's the highlight of the series, recruiting all characters. In this third entry, no characters are missable, and you can recruit them at the end of the game if you want to. No bad ending exists if you don't do that, but if you don't, then you won't unlock a post-game protagonist to play a bit of the story through his point of view. I like that. I like that the penalty isn't some gruesome or tragic ending, but instead just missing optional content. Obviously, a guide is required to get all characters. The shops and the equipment system work the exact same way as in the previous games. Every character has their own unique weapon that can be never changed. You can only upgrade it with a blacksmith if you have enough money and up to a certain level. You can buy one piece of armor and a bunch of accessories or healing items or spells, but remember that the items or spells go into the equipment system as well with limited space. Also, some characters come with unique runes to them, others come with nothing, some can equip more than one, others only one or two, etc. And also every rune skill or spell that isn't passive has a limited amount of uses, so in these departments, this third entry is the same as the others. But new is a passive skill system for every character, and you can train them by using points you get after battle, and these skills may vary depending on the characters, as in some of them might come with certain skills more trained than others. Let's talk about the battle systems now. You've got 3 here, but let's address the regular turn-based combat, which pissed a lot of people off. You can still have up to 6 party members in battle, but they act in pairs. You cannot choose every character's action separately. For example, for one pair, if you want one character to use a specific spell or item or anything else, you won't be able to select their partner's action at all. They'll simply use a regular attack every single time. Why? I have no idea. I guess they were trying to be creative and save the player's time because, I don't know, selecting the actions of 6 characters takes up too much time? That never bothered me, but I guess it bothered a lot of Japanese players in the first 2 games? Or maybe Konami themselves told the developers to think of something, I have no idea, man. But it was a really stupid decision because, you know what? It makes the game unnecessarily hard, and I mean frustratingly hard. Knowing that you can't choose everyone's actions the way you want to or the way you do in other JRPGs to fit your own strategy, it kinda sucks. You gotta strategize keeping that in mind and rely on the computer to not mess up the regular attacks. This is the hardest Suikoden ever made, and it was all because of this decision. But also because some spells need more than one turn to be cast. Like in the previous 2 games, you have a player phase where you choose everyone's actions and then start the battle. But if a spell is too strong, it may leave the character casting, which means vulnerable until the next player phase. Damn, they were serious about making this game harder than the others. Now, for the war battles, the combat is actually quite similar. You'll have these menu-based maps with your character icons on cards. Each character is a commander and can have other characters with them, or the rest will be filled with regular soldiers. If there aren't enough characters that can be a commander, or you simply don't want to assign one to some cards, they'll have a generic commander. So you move your cards around or stay and defend or heal, etc. But if you come into contact with an enemy card, this regular turn-based battle will happen, and in here, your options are very limited. There's just attack, guard, or retreat. And once you choose whichever, the battle will start and the turn order will be completely random, as in relying on RNG. These battles will last for a couple of rounds, but they can be won if by some miracle your characters target the enemy commander first. But the same thing can happen if yours gets defeated. So this combat is even more random and out of your control than the normal one. Permadeath exists for some recruited characters, so always play through these war battles with that in mind. But yeah, this combat depending too much on RNG can be just as frustrating or more than the regular battle system. What's cool though, is that every map has a different objective other than kill all enemies. Sometimes you have to survive, or defend a location, or save a character, etc. So in that area, the war battle system in Suikoden 3 is still fun and creative, but in everything else, it's a mixed bag. The duels work the same as before, but with a minor addition. You still have to select between attack, guard, or death blow in a rock paper scissors mechanic, where one is stronger than the other. You do that by trying to guess your opponent's action like in any other Suikoden game. New to this entry though is the duel gauge. If it moves towards your enemy, that means you're having the advantage and your actions will be more effective, but also the other way around. And that's it. It's a simple addition to make you feel excited if you guess your enemy's action and counter correctly. Other than that, it's the same duel system seen in the other games. In conclusion, the story is fantastic here, despite changing from one silent protagonist to 4 regular main characters. I also believe the antagonists are very interesting, among my favorites in the series. It's worth noting too that some mature themes are there, which means it carries over the tradition of engaging with different political views and moral dilemmas. Great character development here, especially for Chris herself. The game's long, about 50 hours or more if you recruit everybody, and like I said before, the music is fantastic as well, despite not being as masterful as in the others. As for the rest, I know it's a mixed bag, but I really don't see any big negative highlights apart from the several complaints I have with the battle system on regular combat and on war battles. I don't hate those systems, but I don't love them either. Nothing in this game though was a big deal for me to rage quit or turn it off, other than a few nasty difficulty spikes of course. So if you were thinking about playing this game at some point, hopefully this review will help you make a decision. But in my opinion, this is still highly recommended despite its many flaws. So that's Suikoden 3 for you. Really good game, very recommended. A bit outdated, but I'm pretty sure you'll be able to tolerate that in exchange for an amazing story, amazing characters, and the good old Suikoden gameplay mechanics. Thanks for watching, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends. See you next time!